Let's talk about Tres Leches cake. I'm going to show you a kind of variation on the classic version of it today, one that's flavored with coffee syrups. Now, when you make a Tres Leches, you have to first create a kind of light and airy cake, one that can absorb the classic 3-milk syrup. Lainey's going to show you how to make that, but I'm going to start with taking you through the steps of making the cake. The first thing that we have to do is to measure flour and sugar into a bowl. A cup of flour, 6 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and a good pinch of salt. Those dry ingredients I'm going to whisk together, and we're going to move on to the wet ingredients. So for that, we're going to separate 4 eggs. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, a teaspoon of delicious Mexican vanilla. You can of course use any kind that you have on hand, but the Mexican is floury and light, and 2 tablespoons of water. Now I'm going to whisk these wet ingredients until they're thoroughly combined. Now onto the egg whites. Put a pinch of cream of tartar in with them. So help make them stable and easy to fold in and start the beat. Now we've gotten the egg whites beaten to what I would call soft peak stage, and one by one I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of sugar to the egg whites so that they turn out a sort of glossy, beautiful mass. Get that last little bit off of there, and we're going to combine the 3 mixtures. We're going to start by stirring in about 1/3 of the dry mixture into the wet, and then folding in 1/3 of the egg white mixture. Another 1/3 of the dry mix goes in. Another 1/3 of our beaten egg whites. Fold those in. Now I have a very large muffin tin, and that's what we're actually going to use here to bake these. You could bake them in smaller muffin tins, lined as these are, but these are going to give you a much more dramatic presentation. So I'm going to fill each one of these with about 1/6 of our batter. Put those into a 350-degree oven, middle rack, and let them bake for 20 to 25 minutes.
In the traditional Tres Leches cake, the 3 milks are whole milk, sweetened condensed milk, and evaporated milk. But today we're going to make an extra luxurious Tres Leches cake where we replace the whole milk with heavy cream. So to start out, I'm just going to whisk my 3 milks together. Now that we've got our milks combined, we're going to add some really strong coffee or espresso, a teaspoon of vanilla, a dash of cinnamon, and a pinch of salt.
When the cakes were springy on top, we took them out of the oven and let them cool for a few minutes. Then pulled the papers off the outside and inverted them into a baking dish. Then we soaked them with that delicious coffee-flavored tres leches syrup, drizzling it all over them and letting them sit for about an hour or so to completely absorb the syrup. I love Italian meringue, you know, that fluffy, gooey stuff, and I think it makes the perfect frosting for a tres leches cake. But some people find it a little bit challenging because you have to beat egg whites and you have to boil a hot sugar syrup and then you have to combine the two. But truthfully, it's not hard once you know how to step yourself through it. So, Lainey, I'm going to ask you first to measure a cupful of sugar into the saucepan while I get some water. Now we're going to add about 1/3 of a cup of water to this. I always start by dribbling it around the outside and then into the middle, just enough to wet all the sugar. So that should be about right there. I'm going to turn it on to high, and we're going to swirl it in the pan until we start to see the sugar dissolve. Now you'll notice that we no longer see any little crystals of sugar, except all around the top of the pan. So I'm going to dip this brush in water and wash them all down. Now this is really an important part of this preparation. You want to make sure that every single crystal of sugar has been dissolved in the water. Now we're going to boil this till it gets to what we call the soft ball stage. That means that a little bit of the syrup in cold water will form a soft ball. I'll show you what that looks like. But first we're going to beat some egg whites. We have 5 egg whites in there. We're going to put a pinch of cream of tartar, if you want to grab that. Add that. That'll make these beaten egg whites very stable. Go ahead and close it up and put it on medium speed because we want these to beat slowly so that they're fluffy and ready for the sugar syrup at exactly the same moment that the sugar syrup is ready for the egg whites.
Okay.
Once the sugar syrup reaches that soft ball stage, you beat it into the fluffy egg whites in 3 or 4 additions. Then beat the whole thing until it cools. That'll take about 10 minutes. You can do all kinds of fancy techniques of, garnishing frosting with this beautiful Italian meringue, but we're going to do something pretty straightforward. We've got our individual tres leches cakes, and they've soaked up almost all of the 3 milks. It's stable meringue now. Kind of mix it to soften it up a little bit like that. And then scoop out whatever you want to put on top of your tres leches. Okay, here's my favorite part of all of this. Okay, we're going to torch this so we can make it brown nicely. Gives you that sort of toasted marshmallow feel to it all. Mexican chocolate.
Because of course, why not?
You have